Marhaban. My name is Ian Campbell, and this series of 5 videos is the 4th series in a whole set of videos explaining the basics of how to speak, read, and write Al-Fusha, or Modern Standard Arabic. These 5 videos will explore what we call the idafa in Arabic. This is how we link nouns together in relationships of possession. It's easy to use, but it works backwards from English, so it takes getting used to. This 4th video will show how to use idafas in phrases, which is a little trickier than using them in sentences. So the problem is that it can end up being ambiguous what the adjective is referring to, and I'm going to show this through a bunch of examples. But let's review first that when you have an indefinite adjective after an idafa, that makes the whole thing a sentence, and the adjective modifies the first word. This was the subject of the last video. So we could say here, dars tilka al-ustada, and here's a new word, sahl. And sahl means easy or simple. So we can look at this and say, the lesson of that professor is easy, because we've gone from definite to indefinite, so we know we have a sentence, and this refers back to the first word in the series. By the same token, we can say durus hadha al-ustad, so now I've made dars plural, sa'ba. So sa'ba means difficult, and there's a new vocabulary word for you, so take that one in hand. It can mean hard, as in this test is hard, but not hard as in hard as a rock. That's a different word. So durus hadha al-ustad sa'ba. So we go from definite, definite, definite. This one is definite because it is owned by this one. This one is an ism ishara or demonstrative, this, that, these, and those. That makes it definite, and then we go to indefinite. So that's where our is, am, or are goes. So that was the subject of the last video, so it shouldn't be that much of a problem for you. However, when you have a definite adjective after an idafa, it remains a phrase. It doesn't become a sentence, because sentences have to go from definite to indefinite. But now the adjective modifies the final word in the idafa, not the first one. And this can be very confusing for new beginners in Arabic. So I'm going to go through it in a little bit of detail here. So I'm going to introduce a bunch of new vocabulary words in this one, so pertaining to school. So an imtihan is an exam or a test. You have empty hands when you give it back to the professor, is how I usually teach it. So the test of y'all's professor, and then the new. So this word is definite, this word is definite because it has because it belongs to ustadakum, and this word is definite because it has a domir or possessive pronoun. Let me go back and make that a vocabulary word for you. And this word is definite bisabab alif lam. So these words never go from definite to indefinite. They stay definite. So that's how we know it's a phrase. And then the rule is that the adjective now refers to the final word in the idafa. So the test isn't the thing that's new here. The professor is the thing that's new. And again, this can be a little bit ambiguous for new learners and non-native speakers. You'll catch up on it as you go, but as I'm going to show you, it's going to sometimes just stay ambiguous, and you're going to have a hard time figuring out what is the actual thing going on here. And this is one of the real challenges of learning basic Arabic. Most of the time, idafas are easy to use, but sometimes native speakers will be a little bit fast and loose with the rules. So the test of y'all's professor, the new, or y'all's new professor's exam. By the same token, over here we have another vocabulary word, natija. Natija means result. It's also the score in a sports game. So if you're watching a soccer match, they'll say, a natija 0-0. The result is 0-0, very typical of soccer. And then al-ikhtibar. Al-ikhtibar comes from the same root as the khabar of the sentence. Here's your kha, here's your ba, here's your ra. So it means to inform someone. And really the word ikhtibar means experiment, but it works as quiz, a short imtihan in a class context. And then qasir is short in duration or in height, just like in English. So natijat al-ikhtibar al-qasir. So here it's easy because natija is feminine, and ikhtibar is masculine, so al-qasir bidun ta marbuta, without the ta marbuta, can only refer to the quiz, and that's how you know it's the quiz that's short rather than the result. So the rule is that the adjective modifies the final word of the idafa when it's definite, but this isn't always fully obeyed. Here's a couple of other examples. Imtihan safik asab, so definite because of the idafa, definite because of the damir, definite bisabab alif lam. So it's a phrase. It's the class that's difficult here, not the exam. So, excuse me, your difficult class's exam, or the exam of your difficult class, is what's been being said here. Durus, lessons. Al-mudarrisa, a word we learned last time, teacher, only it's a woman this time. Al-latifa, so all three of the words here are feminine, durus because it's non-human plural, and al-mudarrisa and al-latifa bisabab ta marbuta, but the lessons aren't going to be nice. Latif refers to a person, so it's pretty clear here which one it refers to, the nice teacher's lessons or the lessons of the nice teacher, depending on how you want to word that. So it's often clear what the adjective is supposed to modify due to gender or number. But when in doubt, remember that the rule is that a definite adjective modifies the final noun. So let's take a look at some more examples because that's how we're going to make it clear. So here we have nata'ij. Nata'ij is the plural of natija. You could say natijat, everyone would get it, but it's nata'ij. So al-imtihanat, so exam or test became exams or tests here. And now we have tawila, long or tall, if you're referring to a building or people. All three words are feminine, both of the first two because they're non-human plural, and tawila because of ta marbuta. So when in doubt, make sure that it's the exams here that are long and not the results. And this makes sense because the results really wouldn't be long anyway. So this is the results of the long exams. Here we have taqdim. Taqdim is another new word. I'll give you a bunch of vocabulary words in this one. Is a presentation, like I'm giving you a presentation right now. And then al-ustadh, and here's a new word, muthir. Muthir means interesting or stimulating. So al-ustadh al-muthir. So it's a little bit grammatically ambiguous here. Is it the presentation that's interesting, or is it the professor? When in doubt, pick the final word. So it's the interesting professor, which I am definitively not. So we can use some more examples here. Durus dhalika saf al-mumil. So, excuse me, when I give you a new word, I am going to give you its opposite usually as well. So muthir is interesting, mumil is boring. So durus dhalika saf, the lessons of that class, and then the boring. Now durus is feminine singular because it's non-human plural, and saf is masculine singular. So it should be clear from the grammar here that it's the class that's boring, not the lessons. So that boring class is lessons. As'ila is the plural of su'al for question, and then al-ikhtibarat, we make it plural in the same way we make imtihan plural by adding the standard plural at, and then as-sahla, the easy. So in this case, all three words are feminine here. The outer ones because of ta marbuta, and the middle one because it's non-human plural, and therefore feminine singular. So it's a little bit grammatically ambiguous. Which are easy, the questions or the quizzes? And when in doubt, go with the last word. It's the easy quizzes questions, not the quizzes easy questions. Sometimes it's a little hard to formulate them in English. So, however, the problem with all of this is that this rule is broken almost as often as it's followed, and the adjective modifies one of the other nouns in the series, not the final one. And sometimes this is pretty evident, again, due to gender. So we can say natijat al-imtihan al-jayida. So jayyid is a good word because it means good. So, excuse me. So jayyid It looks like Jeed in a non-voweled text, but it's really Jayyid. So natijat al-imtihan al-jayyida. Al-imtihan, exam, is masculine, and the other two words are feminine. So we know that it's the results here that are good and not the exam. So the good results, singular, of the exam. Same thing, taqdimat is the plural of taqdim. Al-ustadh is masculine. Taqdimat is feminine because it's non-human plural. So al-mumilla, the boring, has to refer to the taqdimat, has to refer to the presentations, not the professor. In my case, I'm boring, but these presentations are, inshallah, reasonably interesting to you. Or we could say durus as-saf al-muthira. So as-saf here is masculine singular, and durus is feminine singular because it's non-human plural. So this feminine adjective needs to refer to the lessons, not the class. It's the interesting lessons of the class, or the class's interesting lessons, if you want to roll it that way. Ajwiba is the plural of jawab for answer or response. Al-ikhtibar is masculine singular. Ajwiba is feminine singular, not only bisabab ta marbulta, but really because it's non-human plural. So al-qasira for short, because it has ta marbulta, has to refer to the answers, not the quiz. So it's the quiz's short answers, not the short quiz's answers. Again, at your level as a novice Arabic speaker, concentrate on getting the really simple things like this right. And if you have to ask for clarification, which one's which? Is it the quiz that it's short, or is it the answers that are short? People will be really willing to help you out and explore that. However, in many instances it's ambiguous, and you might end up having to ask for clarification for real. And this is especially true when it's a native speaker saying it, because to a native speaker it's usually way less ambiguous. So here we have nata'ij al-ikhtibarat as-sayyi'a. So sayyi' is the opposite of jayyid. Sayyi' means bad. So which one is it? Is it the results are bad, or is it the quizzes are bad? And it's pretty easy to extract here. It's not the bad quizzes, it's the bad results. So the bad result of the quizzes, or is it the quiz's bad results? Grammatically, it's ambiguous. So this is where you kind of have to use your head to figure out what's being referred to, or sometimes just to ask for clarification. Which one is with the quizzes that are bad, or the results? And your native speaker friend will be like, oh yeah, duh, sure, no, it's the results. Same thing over here. Taqdimat al-ustadha al-mumilla. Now the rule is that all three of these are feminine singular, non-human plural, feminine singular because it's a feminine person, feminine singular because of ta marbulta. So the rule here is that the final word gets modified. So the default here would be that it's the professor who's boring and not the presentations. But a native speaker might slip right over that and give you this phrase and mean that the presentations are boring, not the professor. Although who knows, they might both be boring. Some more examples here. Durus as-sufuf al-muthira. The lessons, the classes, the interesting. So the rule tells us that it should be the classes that are interesting, not the lessons. But a native speaker could just as easily be referring to the lessons in this matter. All three words are feminine singular here, the first two because they're non-human plural, and the last one bisabab ta marbulta. They're also all definite, the last two because of alif lam, and the first one because of the idafa. So is it the interesting lessons of the classes, or is it the interesting classes lessons? And again, this is where you might have to ask for clarification, because grammatically it's ambiguous. Same thing over here. Imtihan al-mudarris al-qasir. Which one is short? Is it the teacher or the exam? The default is that it's the final word. The teacher is short. However, a native speaker might just as well mean that the exam is short. So my advice to you is really focus on vocabulary and putting together simple idafas. And if a native speaker throws one of these at you that's confusing, just ask them for clarification. They'll be perfectly willing to help you for the very most part. because you're out there trying to learn Arabic, and generally speaking, that will make them very happy. So just as a little final note here, you can combine definite and indefinite adjectives to make sentences, and all of these rules are going to apply. So I can say, for example, نتائج الامتحانات الطويلة جيدة. So the results of the exam, the tall, the good. And so what we're going to do here is all of these words are feminine. This is feminine singular because it's non-human plural. Same thing here. And these two both have ta marbuta on them. So everything here is feminine singular. And these first three are definite. This one بسبب الإضافة. هذا بسبب ألف لام. هذا أيضا بسبب ألف لام. This one also because of ألف لام. And then we get to indefinite. So we know that this is a sentence that begins with a phrase. The results of the tests, the long, are good. And we could pretty clearly infer here that it's the tests that are long and not the result. So results, plural. So we get the results of the long exams are good. And then here we have the same kind of similar situation. Taqdim, masculine, singular, and also definite because it's owned by al-ustadh, masculine, singular, and definite bisabab alif lam. So here's our two-word idafa, the presentations of the professor, or the professor's presentations. And then we have a definite adjective, latif, nice or kind. Well, the presentations aren't going to be kind. They're just presentations. So obviously it's the ustadh who is. So the nice or kind professor's presentation, what about it? It's bad because now we went from definite to indefinite and made it a sentence. And the word sayyi't for bad, when it doesn't have ta marbuta on the end, the hamza is going to sit atop a dotless letter ya. That's one of the funny hamza spelling rules. You'll pick these up as you go along. So there's a lot of content here, and it's a little more ambiguous than most of what I've been giving you because this is a point where grammar rules are often broken. And remember, grammar is descriptive, not prescriptive. It tells us how we speak, not tells us how to speak. So if you have to fluff it a little, or you have to ask for clarification, or sometimes you have to give clarification, that's okay. You're still communicating, and that's the important part. But for now,